Welcome back. I'm Barry Craig. The college is rightly proud of a national award it received for being friendly to our military veterans. My guests today are two representatives of the Veterans Office. They are Deanna Shelley and Kristen Amaya. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At 63 years old, I'm a classic World War II baby boomer. My dad was a Navy veteran in World War II. Went to college on the GI Bill, which revolutionized college, made college a lot better, a lot more representative of our society. Is the GI Bill still around, and if so, how is it different from the original legislation?
It is absolutely still around. We're seeing more and more veterans come. Every semester we've had an increase in veterans. They've transformed it, they've made different types of it, especially with the drawdowns in, after Iraq, and then of course with the plan for Afghanistan to come to a close. We will see more and more veterans that are eligible for it, and I think we're going to see an increase several semesters now that some of these veterans can transfer it to their dependents. They're made even longer eligibility for it. So our jobs aren't going away anytime soon.
Well, again, you know, being a history teacher, it was a tremendously beneficial piece of legislation. It democratized college. We were talking before the program. My parents were both working class, and college was something that the wealthier kids went to. My dad and mom both could have done fine in college, but it was just something working class people didn't do. Then my dad went to college on the GI Bill, and then I came along, and he decided he couldn't rear a son and go to college, and he quit school and never went back. But today, well, just give me a little history. I'm a history teacher, of course. Give me a history of your office. How long have you all been in operation here?
I'll let Deanna go first.
All right.
She's been here longer than I have.
The Veterans Office has been here for many, many years. Now, we have developed a wonderful partnership since Kristen came on board, because Kristen acts as our recruiter / liaison person. She basically initiates the veteran to campus, discusses their desire to further their education, works with them on their classes. She basically gets them to that point where we can then get their benefits, and then I help the student when they need to receive their benefits. I go on and take them on from that process. So it's been a wonderful partnership. Our numbers have increased, so it's a win-win situation.
And so what percentage of the student population here are military veterans?
We're between 4 and 5% of our student population on benefits. Of course, it's after that, it's self-reporting, and you know, occasionally we'll have the part-time or full-time student that doesn't claim that they're a veteran, so we don't know about them, and that's an effort I've been working on with admissions as well as financial aid to not just label them, but to give them the title they've earned, just in our ability to account for them, whether they're getting money from the VA or not. We still want to know how we can serve them.
So when a young man or a young woman is discharged from service and they come to campus, just take us through what they do. They've just driven up onto campus, then you take over. What do they do?
And that's actually the way it would go. They would see Veterans Services over the door. They come in and they say.
And you're in, where's your
Anderson
office?
Technical Building. You come in the front door, it says Veterans Services over the door. It's visible from the front door, so that's great. They can just walk right in and see it. Either myself or my administrative assistant, who's also a Navy veteran like me, will say, all right, you know, and of course we'll say welcome aboard, of course.
Even if it's a soldier or airman?
We probably will.
Okay.
Lots of veterans like to establish which service they were in right away, but that helps keep people, you know what, this person's probably been through what I've been through, so they'll actually sit down and talk with us about what they want to do. And you know, we'll take them through everything from, have you been to another college before? You know, what did you do in the military? What kinds of benefits do you think you're eligible for, and what have you done? That way it does a lot of the front end work. We try to get as much done as possible before it ever even reaches Deanna's office. That way we've done all the troubleshooting we can do, so that after they are in classes, we're lowering the number of errors as far as which classes they're taking not being paid for. We want to make sure that they get their benefits. That flow of benefit money is really what keeps them in the classroom. If there are any problems, we don't want it to result in a dropout or you know, an official withdrawal by any means. And that's why it's so important that we work together to prevent problems. Once they're in school, they can always come back to our office for any type of advocacy they need. We have several veterans on faculty and staff that will also work for them. We'll refer them to them or their offices for any kind of assistance.
And who are they? Let's name names.
Oh, we have several. I know I'm going to forget some. Scott Garrett, who's one of our history professors, is retired Army. And of course, he's known as Sergeant Major. Of course, he likes to badmouth officers like me, but it's very fun. He's fantastic. He's been here. He knows the morale that's important. He knows what it's like to come back from combat, and he identifies well with our newly returned combat veterans. We have Laura Durbin in nursing. She was an Army nurse. She's an instructor in our nursing, our allied health, so she does a lot of nursing. Steve Hearn is a retired Coast Guard Master Chief. He's the Marine Technology Program Coordinator. We have several, goodness, I know I'm going to forget someone. In the math department, we have a couple of gentlemen, Corey Wadlington and John Maxwell, who's actually adjunct faculty. We have some of our technical type staff, Larry Crane. I could just keep going probably. I'll stop there because I know I'm going to forget several, so we'll just forget them all in a lump there.
Let's say a veteran has taken some college courses. I know that they do near military bases. How does that factor in to their work here?
Yep, I can explain, or actually Deanna has excellent knowledge on that.
We're required to have all their educational background. So once they communicate that to us that they've attended somewhere else, whether it's military training or the college campus, then we're required to get the transcripts that show that information.
Does some of the military training count for college coursework?
It actually can. They can use up to 12 hours of electives. Once the transcript is evaluated, they have that option whether they want to use that credit. Some opt to do that, others prefer to have the classroom training in lieu of that, so we have a mixture.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get down to brass tacks and talk money. Everybody's interested in money.
We all love our money.
So how does the money play into what you all do?
Depending on what type of benefit they're on, the money will either come directly to them, and it's their responsibility for paying any kind of school, any kind of book expenses, whatever their expenses may be, but they're in control. That's what we saw with the older GI Bill programs. They're still in existence today. That's actually the one that I use, the Montgomery GI Bill. Our Guard and Reserve members also have that option available to them. To me, it put more control in my hands, especially if I had other forms of aid like Pell Grant or scholarships or something. The newer GI Bill, which is the post 9/11, we're seeing a lot of, they pay the school directly for the tuition and then give a little bit for books, which is a good amount of money based on the hours you're enrolled, plus a housing allowance. And that money is to be spent, of course, however the veteran desires, but it does go to them. So, they get a little bit of everything with that one. Being such an affordable school, they almost come out about even right here for a semester of in-state. So it's really up to the veteran to select, what they want to use.
So let's say a veteran has an associate's degree from this school and transfer to Murray State or the University of Kentucky. Do you help them in that process as well?
Actually, yeah, because we know exactly what it's like for them to transfer to us and be their new school, so we help them with that change. And we if they want to come into our office and we say, well, here's what you're going to need to do before you go there, or have this done and hand it to the next veteran's office, so that way it cuts down on the delays that they may have in their benefits.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very good working relationship with Murray's VA office. Their certifying official and myself communicate a lot on students that are transferring, and they're very willing to work with us and let us send them paperwork for the students, so it's a really good relationship.
You mentioned a moment ago that some veterans don't let you know they're veterans. Why would they not do that?
It depends. Some of them don't feel that they deserve a benefit, even though they felt they were eligible. Some have realized, you know what, I don't want to have anything to do with what I used to do in the military. I don't have any desire to be a part of a veterans group or for anyone to see me as a veteran. It could also depend on what type of discharge they had. Unfortunately, you know, some don't have an honorable discharge for various reasons, and it's of course not my job to judge that, but I will help them if they come into my office regardless. They're still a veteran. They may not have had the honorable discharge, but I still want to help them in whatever way I can. Now that's what will affect benefits, and if they know that and they say I'm not going to get anything out of that, they don't make the move to tell us they're a veteran, so they continue going to school without anyone knowing they're a veteran.
Correct me if I'm wrong, for honorable discharge, is there also a general discharge and
Yes.
a dishonorable?
Yes, absolutely.
What are the I know honorable, obviously, what it is. What's the difference in a general discharge and a dishonorable discharge?
It's misconduct, UCMJ violations, Uniform Code of Military Justice. Right. This really came into play when the new Veterans Retraining Assistance Program came into existence. We were still very much unaware of what the requirements were, and it was as long as they don't have a dishonorable discharge, they would be eligible for it. What we've come to find out is even those that didn't have the honorable still had a lot of, they went through a decision type
Yes.
phase by the VA, those that had the general. But many of them are still eligible for the VRAP, so I'm sure that you've had just as much experience with that.
We've had several that will have a delay, and if we call to check the status, they say it's under a review process. So there is a review process. They go through and look at the particulars of that veteran's service and the circumstances surrounding that discharge status.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like what y'all do is very individual. It almost sounds like it's case by case when veterans come in.
Yes, we don't have a mass influx of veterans. Last summer we did do, in cooperation with the Paducah One-Stop Career Center, a gentleman by the name of Ray Gage, who's a retired Army. He is the vet rep. And so he and I got together and we said we have so many veterans that are between 35 and 60 that are unemployed, and they're probably going to be eligible for this VRAP, Veterans Retraining Assistance Program. And you know, while Deanna does all the certifying to make sure they get paid, Ray and I are on the outreach end of it, where we talk to them about what they may have done in the military or what other experience they have and how could you utilize this benefit. So we did have several that came in big groups, and we still gave them individual attention after that, but we did have groups of, you know, up to 20 at a time that we were doing paperwork for. And it allowed us to have 40 enrolled last fall immediately. I mean, just like that, just within probably a couple of months. And it was challenging, but we're so glad that they're
Yes.
here. Most of them are just fantastic students, and of course we expect that. But
No, that's
otherwise
true.
otherwise it's individuals coming in on their
Across
own.
the board, and I've been here 24 years, veterans, generally speaking, are very good students. And they're much more mature, obviously much more serious about it. That's not to say we don't have some excellent students who are young
Absolutely.
and not veterans, but you can definitely tell. Now you mentioned 60 years old. Let's just say hypothetically that someone is 62 or 3 years old, a Vietnam vet, and decides to go back to school, even though they were in Vietnam, say in the 1970s. Are they still eligible for veterans benefits?
Education benefits, probably vocational rehab.
That would really be their only option.
So you have to claim these benefits in a certain after
Yes.
your discharge.
Yes.
How long is that?
The Montgomery GI Bill would be 10 years. With the new post 9/11, which is what we refer to as Chapter 33, that's the official name, it's 15. So you know, people are getting a longer time to use it, and that, you know, includes giving it to their children as well, or their dependents. So
Now, how does that work?
they must be in, and I'll give you an example myself. I actually used Montgomery GI Bill, which is the Chapter 30. I went to graduate school on that, but I didn't use it all. but I was still in the Navy Reserve. So I said I would like to change my benefits to the post 9/11. I'd had a deployment after 2001, so I knew I had plenty of eligibility for it. I didn't use it, and since I was still in the reserves, I was eligible to transfer it to my husband, and he could use it right away. And that's what's happening is sometimes people aren't going through that transferability process before they get out. So sometimes when they contact us and they say, I'm still on active duty, or I'm still in the Guard or the Reserve, I say, if you want to transfer your benefits now, you need to be looking into that eligibility, because you must do it before you get out. But they do go through a process with the DOD. On the website, it's very easy. They just they put the number of months under their benefits, under their dependents, and they wait for it to be approved, and then the dependent can actually just apply just like anyone else can through the VA to use it.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned, how much of this can you do on a computer?
Almost all of it, actually. My office, not just to save paper and go green, but it's much easier and faster when we do those applications for benefits on the internet. And the website is, because I've learned it and done it so much, it's actually very easy for me to get on. I guide them through the process. They make sure all their information is correct. Mm-hmm. But it also cuts down on errors and processing time, because we're not waiting on it to be mailed to the VA. We're not dealing with any kind of handwriting issues on the paper or anything that may have been checked incorrectly. I can do like a proofreading while we're there, and it immediately gets sent to the VA.
That's the thing, excuse me, that there's so much paperwork these days. And I would imagine if you're a veteran, you're probably used to some paperwork in the military, but you think, okay, it's so daunting. You see all this stuff, you think, so you help people fill that stuff out.
Absolutely. They can come into our office. My assistant actually, because he's so great at it and he does the file too, we're so lucky to have him. Josh Skeeting, he can sit there and do the same application with them. So if I'm not in the office, or if I am serving one veteran, he can sit down with another veteran and do it as well. Deanna can too, but because her job is so tedious with making sure our veterans are getting paid, that we try to do that before they eventually make it to Deanna.
That has been a nice addition, because in the past, before we had the veteran services, we didn't have the time to sit down with the veteran and walk them through. So for the veteran, that's been wonderful, because they don't have to do the paper application and wait for it to process. They can get that one-stop shopping where we help them do everything. So it's
for a veteran
wonderful.
with no college, they can actually show up in my office. We can go to a website and have them pull their military transcripts. We can do the application for benefits. I can advise them. They can take the Compass test and actually walk out of our building with a schedule. Wow. Knowing that they're going to be certified by Deanna, and once she certifies them, the VA approves them, and they're going to get paid. So they can walk out. I've had several people that complete in just one day, and they walk out with a schedule, and they're ready to go buy books and go to class. And because Deanna's so great at what she does, I don't think in my time here that we've ever had any kind of errors that has held that up for people who go through that process so quickly.
Is there also a social aspect? Now, when I was at Murray State, I hate to admit it, 1967, 1971, there was a veterans club. They were mostly men, Vietnam vets had just come back, and they had like a veterans club. Is there a veterans club on campus?
Actually, yes, there is. The Student Veteran Organization. I'm their advisor. Of course, they're all working adults, our non-traditional students. Nathan Hounsel is our president, and our administrative assistant Josh is the vice president. So we have a great working relationship with those two officers. The rest of the students that are in the group are anywhere between the 18-year-old Guard member who may have been in high school last year to a 60-year-old veteran on VRAP. And it allows for them to all come together and talk about what's going on campus, veterans benefits, any kind of announcements. They do fundraisers and activities. It's not just a self-promoting group. They go out and do projects for the Hugs Project of West Kentucky. They they gather supplies for care packages. We get together with the Red Cross and do holiday cards. So it's not just a group to get together and tell sea stories or war stories, but they do bring up some important issues about campus, and they're a fantastic sounding board with what's going on in student life in general, because they're in so many different programs.
Is there a typical amount of time that a veteran spends in service? I mean, are they 2 years and out, 4 years and out? Are they 20 years career? I mean, do you have a statistic on that?
I don't, but what's come through our office are most of your enlisted personnel that have contracts. So they may be on like a 4-year or 6-year, or they've done an extension. Pretty much when a person who's active duty reaches about 10 years in the military, they have to make that decision. Do I want to stay in 20 and be fully retired, or do I want to get out and go to school? Sometimes they use their military tuition assistance to take classes while they're on active duty. So the ones that mostly come in my office are going to be those with under 10 years in the military, or they might still be in the Guard and they've had a few deployments, but you know, typically they're earlier in their military career. Lately, we've had several retirees that have come out and have shown up in my office, and they said, I just want to do something new, you know, or I can't find a job in the type of field that I had, was doing my job in the military. So they said, you know, I have these benefits, I really want to start something new. Or they have,
typically, what would they do?
get into anything that's in this labor market. I always refer them to Ray Gage down at the Career Center. And I say, you know, you really need to get with him on what kinds of jobs we have around here, or are you willing to relocate? You know, if they are, then they can probably choose any field that we offer.
Do many go into the health field? I would think that's a pretty...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, Deanna sees quite a few of those.
We have many, many that go into the health field.
That doesn't surprise... Well, you know, across the board, we have a number of people who come out here and they'll embark upon a nursing program in their 30s or 40s even. That seems to be a... We
actually have a couple of retired senior enlisted leaders that are, I believe one just finished a nursing program, and another is maybe in physical therapy assistant, but they've had military careers, they've come out, gone to college, now they're on their way to being nurses, and they absolutely love it.
You know, that's an interesting statistic. Younger people now, veterans or non-veterans, will probably have 2 or 3 different careers, whereas, you know, when I was going through school, you were a teacher, you were whatever you were for your whole life, and you really see that changing quite a bit, and that sort of reflects what with
I
the
have
veterans.
a few veterans that have come in. They were combat medics, very good at their job, and I asked them, do you want to keep seeing blood? And some of them say, yeah, I did a great job, I want to keep doing it. It's not going to be stressful as, you know, applying a tourniquet after someone's vehicle hits an IED. So, you know, they'll choose to stick with something that they're familiar with, something that they're great at. Others say, I never want to see a drop of blood again. You know, that's how they're dealing with their post-combat issues. And they say, I don't want to do that again. Even though I was great at it and I spent 6 or 8 years doing it, I want to pick something completely different from what I did in the military. And so that's their choice. And so we talk about other things that they might want to do. But that really is a good discussion to have with them as soon as they get here. With the VA benefits, they can change their program depending on the benefits. Yes. And it seems to be kind of a seamless process to do that. But you know, we don't want them to take things that they don't need, so we try to talk about that up front, so they're not just treading water at school.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think too, just being a friendly face and someone you can relate to. You're a veteran yourself. I think that helps tremendously, because a lot of people, it's been my experience, older students, they're sort of afraid when they come out here. It's like, I've been out of school for all these years. You've been in the military 6 years, or 6 years out of high school, you think, I won't be able to make it. And do you get that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know Deanna saw that quite a bit before I was here as well, because she knows exactly when they drop their classes and don't come back. But we have a lot of word of mouth. People that, you know, may have recently deployed with someone, and they say, hey, you ought to you ought to go to the veterans office at school. They really help me do everything. You know, call Deanna. She'll help you answer all your questions. She's nice and friendly, and people like her. They get answers when they go to her. So now that we both work together, we see a lot of those people. Hey, my friend is so-and-so. You helped him last week, or you helped her last month. I have one that came in my office yesterday, and he said, a friend of mine heard about you through someone else and decided, you know, hey, you guys should really go over to WKCTC and go to their veterans office.
A word of mouth is still, in anything, is
huge.
excellent advertising. Tell us a little about your military career. We've got a few minutes left. If you don't mind talking about your Navy career.
Yeah, active duty Navy.
What college?
I did. I went to the University of Illinois first.
ROTC?
No, I went to OCS, Officer Candidate School, in Pensacola, Florida. It's no longer there, but that was a fantastic place to go. And finished up my active duty down in Corpus Christi, Texas. Transitioned right into the Navy Reserve. Loved my Navy Reserve job, lots of opportunities, including a deployment in 2008. So that's another good way to be a familiar person. You kind of share some of those same experiences with the veterans that come in. I had one deployment. My last job was a casualty case manager for Navy personnel, so did some work at Dover, work on files that of deceased service members, making sure their families were getting paid for their benefits, closing them out, closing their naval careers out after they'd passed. And you know, I don't want to say that was a morbid job, but it really opens your eyes that the military does still take care of the family members. But I've transitioned out of the Navy Reserve. Probably not legally yet. I'm still there, but.
What was your rank?
I was an 03 when I got out.
Which is a?
It's a Navy lieutenant.
JG or senior grade? Or they still have
It's just
that?
lieutenant. It's actually the same as an Army captain.
Wasn't that called the old senior grade lieutenant? It was JG.
Junior grade would be an 02. That'd be like a first lieutenant in the Army.
Yeah. Well, my dad was a petty officer first class, but
Okay.
I know there was
Maybe
ensigns.
6.
He said there were ensigns, then Lieutenant JG,
And then lieutenant.
and full lieutenant, which is like a captain in the Army. That's
Yes.
right. That's right. Because a captain in the Navy is like a colonel in the
That
Army.
is. It is actually.
Yeah.
You know, it's different. The services are quite different, and that's one of the reasons why many of them, when they come in the office, you know, they'll say, "Well, I'm Army," and Josh and I will immediately say, "We're Navy. Go Navy!" And you know, it's like we'll want to ring the bell because we're excited to see another Navy. We have so many Guard members around here.
Yeah.
So many that have come off of active Army. We do see very few Navy and Marines, but when we do, we like to say, "Hey, we're Navy too."
I've got an ex-Marine in my class. Yeah.
yeah.
2 of them actually.
No such thing as an ex-Marine.
Well, that's right. Sorry.
Once Marine, always a Marine.
No longer active duty Marine.
Okay, formerly in the Marine Corps.
We're out of time. Thank you all very much for coming in, and maybe we can do this again sometime. My guests today were Deanna, Shelley, and Kristen, Amaya. I'm Barry Craig. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.